Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit the like, the subscribe, and the share buttons this morning. Some big news in relation to the managerial situation at Manchester United to delve into, with reports that Thomas Tuchel is lined up as the next manager. Does this mean that Ten Hag is a dead man walking and that he will be removed? We're also going to take a look at a story surrounding Casemiro's potential exit from Manchester United. Other transfer windows are still open. Loans are still available as well. So lots to talk about on the show this morning. We're going to take your calls as well. But as ever, hit like buttons, subscribe, and share. And if you don't want to miss any of our content, if you're worried that you often miss notifications that come out, you can join the group chat. Okay, there's no spamming. No one else gets your number. It's completely private. It's on Telegram, and you can scan the QR code on the screen that's just up there now, and we put all of our links in there daily. We just tell you when we are live. I'm actually going to do that now. I forgot to do it earlier, so that way you won't miss anything that is going on. But look, I want to start with the first story of the day, and I read this quite late last night, and I thought I've got to speak to the Terrace community about this tomorrow. But the report suggests that Thomas Tuchel is lined up as the next Manchester United manager. And some of the headlines and some of the articles today state that Ten Hag's sacking is going to come in a matter of weeks as Man United owner Ratcliffe identifies 3 possible suitors. A big story in the Daily Mirror suggests that Man United are likely to pursue Thomas Tuchel if they do choose for a managerial change. And other reports suggest that, according to reports, Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has 3 managers in mind, with the current boss Ten Hag under increasing pressure. So, although the briefings have come out, although the sort of public stance is the Man United board backing Erik Ten Hag, there are also reports they are lining up other targets. Thomas Tuchel's name high on the agenda. But does that mean he's a dead man walking? Does it mean that he is going to lose his job? Well, I think we have to look at things in multiple ways. So if we look at Brighton as an example, and I think this is really important. Brighton don't need a new manager right now. Well, I think we all know that, and we're all aware of that. They're in a very, very, very good situation indeed. However, one thing Brighton do, and we know this because Dan Ashworth, when he was there, spoke about this. We know Man City have this situation in hand as well, is they're always creating a shortlist of who their next potential manager is going to be. That is always happening, whether they're doing well, whether they're doing poorly. Well-run clubs have a shortlist of potential candidates for multiple reasons. Your manager might do really well, decide to move on. Barcelona might come in. His national team may come in. Might decide to retire. Imagine not being ready with your next potential candidates. That would be very, very short-sighted indeed. A manager could become ill. A manager could get sacked. There's loads of things that could happen that lead you needing a new manager to come in. Now, look, my personal belief is that Ten Hag is under increasing pressure. I don't believe that INEOS, Ashworth, Barada are going to stick with him for another 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, the rest of this season, if the performance levels do not improve and if the results do not improve. And the reason why, for the first time since Sir Alex, I'm not worried about this, is because we have a club model. We didn't spend £172 million in the summer on Ten Hag's players. We bought players for the football club. We now have a process. We now have a structure which makes the head coach far more plug and play than ever before. We're not building the club in the image of a manager where he is in control of most facets. We are now in control. So I'm not that worried about sacking him or not. That doesn't bother me. I like the idea, though, that these briefings are coming out, that we are lining up other candidates. But who is it going to be? Thomas Tuchel's name is being mentioned. Of course, Gareth Southgate's name is there as well. Ruud van Nistelrooy is at the football club and could, of course, step into a managerial head coach role should Ten Hag be on his way. And look, everybody is going to have a different view and opinions. There's pros and cons. The one con I have about it being Tuchel is actually, Maswari and De Ligt weren't particularly popular under him. We just brought them into the football club. Would it make sense to bring in a head coach who doesn't particularly favor those two individuals as an example? I definitely don't want Gareth Southgate to come in. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we should just blindly stick with Ten Hag. There's been a lot of criticism of INEOS in the last few days. Why did they stick with him? Why did they not move him on in the summer? Well, as I've stated on multiple streams before, and we'll state again here, sometimes you can't see the wood for the tree. Sometimes we don't understand the methodology until later on down the line. I'm fully behind this rebuild. I'm fully behind the new structure. It is going to take 3 to 4 years to get us back to where we want to. And that includes the right manager, the right squad, the right recruitment, the right balance, even the right culture. All of this is going to take time to fix. The summer was excellent in many areas, but it does not mean that Man United are the finished article as of right now. But to throw this out to you all, although the briefings have come out, and by the way, those briefings came out before the game against Liverpool, how secure do you all think Ten Hag really is? Genuinely, in your heart of hearts. And rival fans, I know you're all going to say, keep him for 10 years, you're going to have banter. I get it, right? But I'd love to hear your honest, truthful opinions. Your honest, truthful opinions. How safe and secure do you really think he is? I really, really want to understand that from you now. 3 to 4 years, good luck. And what was excellent? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that. Yes, it's going to take 3 to 4 years. Of course it is. And we can look at this. When you look at Manchester City's takeover, okay, it came in 2009, the summer of 2009 as an example. Look at if you actually just go now and look when City won their first league title, how long did it take? They won their first league title in the 2011-2012 season, okay? However, that was pre-FFP, so the level of money they could spend to catch up was a lot sooner. But it still took them 3 years from that point. I believe if FFP was already in place, it would have taken Manchester City a lot longer. You look at FSG, when they took over in 2010, it took them really 6 to 7 years until they were at a point where they weren't only competing, but they were competing on a consistent basis. When you've had a club that is in the doldrums, that is broken, that is nearly every single department is in ruins, it takes a long time to fix. The only Man United fans that I see that still think it's a quick fix are the same people who believe that just sacking a manager would fix us. And by the way, if we do get rid of Ten Hag and we bring in Tuchel or we bring in Rude or we go and get Almiron, it doesn't matter. We are still going to have ups and downs and teething problems. As you've heard Barada say, Man United don't just want to have a spike season and win something. We want it to be sustainable over a longer period of time. Terry, you can't claim plug and play club without being fully established and functioning. I absolutely get where you're coming from. However, you're never going to get to a point where you're fully established and functioning without a head coach who's doing a very good job. So you can build, this is why it's all about every area is important. You could build the most balanced squad in the world. If the head coach isn't good enough, you're still going to not be fully functioning as an overall football club. But the only time it's wrong to completely sack up the whole give a manager time. I only believe in this in its truest form if you are genuinely building the club in the manager's image and you're going to stand by that no matter what. But we're not doing that anymore. So you do give the manager time. You give, by the way, Ten Hag's been here a long time already. You give him a few months to start getting the team playing better football, to start making the team more cohesive and getting more chemistry on the football pitch. If that doesn't happen, you look towards removing the individual. You really do at this level of the game. So, and look, I think Ten Hag, I always said it. I didn't think he should have stayed. I think we should have moved on from him. I do believe that's a mistake from INEOS. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he turns it round and it ends up being amazing. But let's not pretend that any of us believe that that is truly going to happen. In another story today as well, revolving around Man United, which I think was very, very interesting indeed. And that states from Rob Dawson that Galatasaray want a midfielder before the transfer window closes and Casemiro is on the shortlist. Man United would consider a deal if the right offer came in, but wages are, of course, the stumbling block here. Now, what I find really interesting about this is, of course, Casemiro has suffered a huge amount of criticism since the weekend's defeat against Liverpool. And I understand why, and I understand everybody's frustrations with him, and I understand why people want to see him move on. And I'm not saying he should stay. I'm not saying that directly. However, we need to be very mindful here we don't weaken the squad further. Getting rid of Casemiro now, I think, creates another hole and problem. Casemiro this season will still be useful and successful in a number of games, especially against smaller teams, the Europa League, Carabao Cup, etc. Even if you think he ain't up to Premier League standard week in, week out, he is still going to be an important squad member this campaign, even just as a body, okay? The only way allowing Casemiro to leave makes any sense, in my humble opinion, is if we're bringing somebody else in. Now, the window's shut, Terry. There are still free transfers available. Now, Ugarte is coming in as the main sort of out-and-out DM the club's going to have. What are the options? There are players like Rabiot who are available on free transfers that Manchester United could still sign. So from my perspective, if we're going to let Casemiro go, it can only be if he's leaving and we're bringing in another body, somebody on a free transfer, loaning somebody ourselves. I don't know. But I can't, as much as he was awful the other day, and I think he was massively, massively culpable for large parts of that defeat. The individual errors were there to see. I know the holes in the system were there. We've spoke about that large. But letting Casemiro go and bringing in no replacement now, I think would be more detrimental to our season. That I really, really do. If, though, you could say, look, Rabiot's coming in on a free transfer, a decent wage. He's obviously a different profile of player. He's technically better on the ball. We're letting Casemiro go. And then our main DM is going to be Ugarte. And Mainoo's going to step into that position as and when rotation needs are required. For me, I'm up for that. I think Casemiro's got to a point with Man United where I don't necessarily think he wants to be here. You've seen the way his lady wife has kind of reacted online. And I kind of believe I think sometimes removing players like him, where there's a lot of angst and frustration and annoyance, can really help with this rebuild as well. So I'm not against him leaving, but absolutely 110%, we can't be allowing him to leave without a replacement coming in. That for me would be really, really poor indeed. It would be. It absolutely would be. Once rivals start saying Ten Hag in, it's time to go. You can always judge the quality of a player or manager by the reactions of rival fans. And when Twitter first became a thing that football fans kind of started using in sort of 2010, 11, 12, when Kenny Dalglish was the Liverpool manager and was stinking up the place, Dalglish in would trend after every game. And we'd all put it out as a bit of a laugh and a joke. I mean, I find that banter a little dead now, but it was funny. It was funny 12, 13 years ago when we first started doing it. And yeah, it's one of those things that I look at and think, you've got problems when people want him to stay. The same as we always knew Pogba was a good player, because when Pogba left, everybody was laughing at us for him leaving. You've lost Pogba. Well, that shows me he was good, right? Shows me he was good, as opposed to laughing about it. So I totally agree with you. Casemiro won't go. It would be stupidity. You need to explain that, Arsenal Avenger. I don't know what you mean by it would be stupid. What about generational talent, Mainoo? Well, you just hit the nail on the head there, Callum. Mainoo is generational talent. He certainly is a generational talent. No one said he's a generational player. Talent and what you are two different things. The player that he may become is years away from fruition, where what he is now is a very highly talented individual. But, of course, as we know, the system at Manchester United on the football pitch isn't great right now. It isn't working. It isn't cohesive. And that will always lead to good players, bad players, average players looking bad. And we know that. And you know that because I assume you're an Arsenal fan looking at your tag. You've had excellent players at Arsenal in the back end of the Wenger era. You had some really good players playing in the Unai Emery team who didn't look particularly good in the systems of which they were in. They would leave your football club, or they're now part of the Arteta situation, and they look, and your team looks much better. So yeah, you understand it completely. I don't quite get what your point is here. Is Mainoo ready to be the main? He's not DM anyway, but is he ready to? He shouldn't be the main man in Man United's midfield. I've been saying that all summer. He shouldn't have that pressure on him at 18, 19 years of age. Clubs should never be painting the picture of teenagers being their main star. It's very detrimental to their development, 110%. It really, really is. Fabregas company, Moresca, have recently joined their clubs. Arteta and Alonso and Pep won't leave their clubs. Xavi is the only one available who has previously learned from Pep. Are you suggesting Man United should go for Xavi? I mean, I don't necessarily think we need someone who's worked under Pep, but I need to understand what you're actually saying there, my friend. What's your point to that comment? I don't see the point to it. I'm not kind of fathom. Rooney should be the Man United manager. No chance at all. Pav here says, I think Ten Hag will be kept for the year and then let go in the summer. Although I hope he joins City next year. Perfect for the job. I mean, he's not going to join City, is he? I don't know why you're saying that. Look, I don't think he will be kept for the whole year. We have serious people running our club. I'll give you an example. When we sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we left it so late. The season was almost over, as an example. We did it with Jose. He should have gone in the summer because of the way he was behaving and treating players and the fallout he had. But we left it until the December. What I think will be different, and I hope is different. If it isn't, then I'm going to condemn it. But what will, in my opinion, be different is the speed of action from the new owners, from the new board, that understand that, yes, the concept that a manager needs time is true, but you only get time if you're showing improvements. If the team continues to get battered, how we did against Liverpool, if there's fallouts in the dressing room, if he's picking the wrong players, subbing on the wrong players and not learning from his mistakes, then what are you giving him time for? He's not learning. We've all been employees and made mistakes. We haven't all been managers, but we've all seen employees make mistakes. And if people are striving to improve and they're making adjustments and changes, you give them time. If everything remains the same and the mistakes continue, you don't get time, or you shouldn't get time. So for me, if he doesn't improve dramatically, I don't see him lasting the season, in my personal and humble opinion. Us Man United fans do not claim Fleurs. Oh, listen, you're here backing the Glazers, bruv. No one claims you. And the thing is, I'm right. And I'm really enjoying it. When I say I'm right, I'm right in relation to, now that we're building a club structure, this idea of you've got to give a manager 3 years to fix the club's crazy. I understood that logic when the manager was in charge of the whole football club. When Fergie came in the 80s, his job was to rebuild the club top to bottom, inside out. You give that time, because it isn't just about how you're playing on the pitch. It's all the other elements of the club you're fixing. When your job is now to just coach the first team, nothing else. You have an input in transfers. You have a say on things, but your actual job is coach the first team. You are judged purely on coaching the first team. So you can sack as many managers you want in a year. It isn't going to create overarching instability within the structure of the organization. As long as you're not going for managers who have completely different coaching styles, and players are like, hang on, we're being coached 4 or 5 different ways in a season. As long as there is a large overlap, you're fine. And I've been asking for this for 11 years. We now have it. We can now, the irony is, I've said for years, you can't just keep sacking managers based on our model not being fit for it. We now have the model for it, and everybody wants to give managers a chance. Honestly, sometimes I look at Man United fans and think, what planet have some of you just landed from? It's crazy. Callum's back again here. He's just harping on about a good window, but begging for Rabiot. I do think we had a good window. But again, what you're doing, my friend, is you were being very, very much intellectually dishonest. I said it was a good window, and I said it was a good summer. I've never said the squad was complete. I've never said Man United was fixed. I never said we're ready to go. Equally, I'm not begging for Rabiot. You are exaggerating beyond belief what I said. What I am stating is that if Casemiro is going to go, we need another body. Someone like a Rabiot would be a good fix for a small period of time if Casemiro and the club decide it is best to let him go. I was only joking. Should try and get the Atletico manager. Look, Man United it's hard to get some of the best managers in the world because we're not in the best state as of right now. That is absolutely true. But I think having had a good summer, having put in the structure in place, you're more likely to turn a few heads. There's only a handful of managers in the world that I think are unattainable for us, and that's if they're managing Liverpool or Man City, or if they're managing Real Madrid. Every other manager in the world, I think, is probably Barcelona as well. I think every other manager, and that's if they've had connect, like Company won't become the Man United manager. Too big a connection to City, just joined Bayern Munich. But the vast majority of managers out there with the right package and the right money are attainable for a club our size. Simple as that for me. So there's no real excuses from that point of view. Back your baldy manager. No, I back the people running the football club. That's what I'm backing. And if he doesn't improve the team, I'm not backing him. What am I backing? Come on now. What am I backing? What am I backing? Terry, is a quick fix part of the INEOS strategy? Sometimes it has to be. And this is the problem with again, people that haven't had proper jobs yet. And some of that is due to people's age. I don't expect an 18-year-old to have had a proper, difficult, high-level job. But sometimes in life, you have to have a quick fix. And I'll give you an example. In the organizations I worked in, sometimes you have a hole in your team that needs filling. It's hard to go out and employ someone and train them and bring them in a short period of time. So you go out and you bring in a contractor, someone that's going to come in and do a 6-month stint, a year stint, whilst you train up other individuals to take that role over. So this happens in all industries, including sport. Sometimes you need a quick fix in a hole because there's an injury or a problem, but that doesn't mean that's the end solution. So yeah, absolutely. Every single sports team, business, church, school, family will always have moments of quick fixes. Doesn't mean it becomes the norm. Sometimes I've had a really busy day and I haven't had time to cook. So do you know what, kids? We'll order some food in. Doesn't mean I'm going to order them takeout for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there we go. 1.5 billion, no trophy to president. I don't know what that means. Don't know what that means. Everything you are saying would lead to relegation. So you can't just make that claim without explaining it. Explain how Man United sacking a failing head coach, and bringing in one that does a better job is going to lead to relegation. Come on. You're done out here. You're a Glazer. Do one. No manager in their right mind would want to join the theatre of tears. They're most likely waiting for that City job post Guardiola era. I just don't believe that whatsoever. Personally, you've got to. We just know that isn't true. We wouldn't have signed players in the summer if that was the case. There was managers that were offering their services to us in the summer as well. So unless you want to see they're crazy, then no, it doesn't really make sense what you are saying. There we go. Look, we're going to take your calls. I'm going to share the link now if you guys want to phone in, if you want to have your say, if you want to come on and have a chat with us about these two stories today. I want to hear from you. But remember, we do this show for like an hour. So if you start dialing in with like a minute or so to go, you're not going to get the opportunity to come on and have as much of a say as you want. Should Man United sack Ten Hag? Do you believe he is close to potentially leaving? Who would you bring in as his replacement? Look, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you feel. I've pinned it now to the live chat so you guys can see it. If you guys want to phone in and have your say, call in via StreamYard. It'd be really great to talk to some of you this morning on this. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Just brought in these new players now after another manager needs some time for stability. But that's now irrelevant to me that we've just brought in these players. And I'll tell you as to why. And I had a few people tweet this to me yesterday. I kind of tweet this out to me. And my view on this is fairly, I've been quite consistent with this, I feel, over the course of the past 11 years. So I'll stand by what I think, feel, and believe for a moment. The club's new and current strategy focuses on building a squad that aligns with the club's long-term values. Now, we don't know what they are right now because they're not going to share their entire plan publicly. That would be stupid. Independent of the preferences of any single head coach or manager. This approach mirrors the successful models at clubs such as Bayern Munich, Manchester City, and then even sort of clubs that don't win all the major trophies, but follow a similar model, that the Brightons and the Borussia Dortmunds and the like, where they have a club system, a club style. No manager runs the club. Liverpool have also done it. You've seen why Slot has been so successful so quickly, where the squad is designed to reflect the club's overall philosophy and how they want to be identified, rather than just the immediate tactical needs of a specific manager. That is how Man United are operating. On top of this, so yes, we have spent 170 odd million, rising to about 200 million this summer, but it wasn't an investment solely for Erik Ten Hag. Instead, it's part of the broader plan to create a team and squad that can thrive under any management or head coach who also aligns with that same philosophy and identity of the football club. This method is about establishing a very strong foundation that endures over time and isn't dependent upon a particular manager. And the reason why that's so key is that the Sir Alex Fergusons of this world are they're kind of done now. The Alex Fergusons of this world are sort of finished in the sense of, you're never going to get, in my humble opinion, those 10, 15, 20 plus year managers on a regular basis. You'll get a handful, but not on a regular basis. So if every time you build a club's philosophy and image in the eyes of a manager, the average manager lasts, 5-6 years. It means every 5-6 years, you're going to need to rebuild and start your strategy again. Where with a club-based plan, it's everlasting. So when people say you've just brought in new players, I don't care. It's almost irrelevant now, because they're being bought for the club's plan and philosophy. This is how, in the modern day era, Real Madrid, all these teams, it's how they operate. Real Madrid don't sit there and go, right, what does Ancelotti personally need? They go, this is what Real Madrid needs. And they buy players for Real Madrid. And then the manager comes in and coaches them. We have to get out of the Fergie mindset, because there are no more Sir Alex Ferguson in the world. There are no up-and-coming coaches who are good enough and smart enough and trained enough to manage a football club. It's not, Pep doesn't manage Man City. He's the head coach of the first team. Of course, he has input and say and influence, and he helps to consult in areas, but he'll tell you, they sign players. It isn't like he's sitting there going, I need Doku, I need this, they tell him, this is who we're signing to bring the philosophy to life that we've all built together. So I'm absolutely comfortable with us buying players now and then sacking the manager 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, without then the need to, we've got to sell all those players now and start again. That is why we failed. So therefore, now we've changed that. Happy fucking days. Happy days as far as I am concerned. Let's have a little look here. Bro, this is not the Eredivisie. This is the Premier League. And can you imagine bringing older Ajax players to compete in the English clubs? It's absolute failure, sir. Well, this is the thing. Maswari's looked absolutely fine with the pace of the Premier League. Barring one foul, De Ligt was having a good game until the midfield emptied itself out and we couldn't perform. Lissandro does really, really well over here as an example, so I don't think that's an issue for me. That's just not a concern. If we didn't empty our midfield and if we had a slightly different approach from a coach who's just in a better space of mind, we'd be able to improve on this. So yeah, I'm not worried about that at all, my friend. That isn't a concern personally for me. For anyone that is just tuning in to this show now, just as a recap for you, many articles out today claiming and stating that Man United are putting a shortlist together. Thomas Tuchel's name is up right by the top as the potential new manager of Manchester United, should Erik Ten Hag be relieved of his duties. We're taking your views, we're taking your opinions on this, plus the story that Galatasaray are going to push to try and sign Casemiro before their window ends. Could he be on his way out of Manchester United? We want your thoughts, we want your feelings, and we want your opinions on that. You can call in as well. The live call-in link is attached to the top of our live comment section. So a lot of people challenging me in the comment section. Phone in, have your say. Paul here says, it wasn't a dig, Terry. I agree with what you're saying, But if he is going to get him gone quickly now, because I can see improvements from last year that need a bit more time to spark. Do you know what, Paul? I didn't take it as a dig. I don't take challenges as a dig. The only challenges I take as a dig is if you attack the Football Terrace platform and what we do. Challenging my opinions or countering them, I never take that as a personal insult. It really isn't. I get where you're coming from. I judge people in the acid tests a lot. And Sunday was a massive eye-opener to me that when the pressure's on, this team will crumble due to the system. And the manager's reaction to it as well. If the manager would have said, look, I made some mistakes today. Some of our approaches were wrong as a team. There was individual mistakes, yes, but there's some tactical issues I'm going to work on next when we're back in training. My mindset would be different. Him talking about Harry Potter and that he can't fix the issues, he can. He can definitely fix the holes in our midfield. he absolutely can. He can definitely do something about Onana's poor positioning. We have other goalkeepers in the squad. He could definitely do something about Rashford's lack of confidence and form. He doesn't have to pick him. He can definitely do something about not dropping our most informed attacker in Ahmad. So there's loads of things he could do. So that for me is the real big concern. United blame structure, player power, and marketing for money. I don't understand what the hell you mean, bruv. I don't know what you mean. What does that mean? We blame it for money. Who blames it for money? How does it make money? You need to explain that. I don't get it, my friend. I don't get you. First on the show, talking to us today, we're going to get the real king. He's a Man United fan. What you saying, bro?
Big up, Terry. Big up the Football Terrace. Subscribe, people. Yes, I'm a Manchester United fan. I want this manager gone. I've wanted this manager gone since we lost 3-2 against Galatasaray last season. That's how long I've wanted this manager gone, because this manager, his management is average. The way that he's treated, the way that he treated Jadon Sancho in that situation of calling him out in public instead of dealing with it privately was, for me, was absolutely disgusting. I think the way that he fallen out with other players as well, falling out with Rafael Varane, falling out with Casemiro. I think it's a disgrace, and I think also that he has certain favourites at the football club, like Rashford, Bruno, Garnacho, who he plays every week, and for me, Bruno, Garnacho, and Rashford are not good enough to play for this football club, because for me they don't have the basic fundamentals, they don't have the technical ability, and they don't have the IQ. And for me, these are major things in football that you can't really coach that much. These things are something that you either have or you don't. So for me, I've wanted this manager gone since then, because of the tactics. The way that he sets the way that he sets the team up leaves Casemiro isolated in the midfield. Like, everyone's having a go at Casemiro, but like, the thing is, Casemiro's never been that type of player that will get the ball off the centre backs and dictate play. Casemiro's not a dictator. Casemiro is a destroyer. And the problem is with Manchester United is we don't have a dictator in the midfield. And people say, oh, we've signed Ugarte. Ugarte is a similar profile to Casemiro. Yeah. Man United haven't replaced a Michael Carrick. That's Man United need a dictator in the midfield with a Ugarte. That's what Man United needed.
Do you know what's interesting as well, though? See, I think Mainoo's got the technical capability to be develop into a dictator. The problem is whether it's young Mainoo now or whether we go and sign Frankie de Jong. If we're separating our DM, the player that maybe receives the ball off the defense, if we're separating them and the dictator by 30, 40 yards and having those big gaps in midfield, it doesn't matter anyway, because the space, you need our midfielders to be closer together and far more compact in and out of possession. So that element, I agree. Who would be your, right now, looking at the available managers around the world, if Ten Hag left today, who would you bring in to replace him, young man?
Who is available? I mean, Tuchel, but who else is available? Because originally I wanted De Zerbi, but De Zerbi's gone now, and I don't know. I don't know I don't know, to be honest with you. I just think we need to bring in a manager, like an attacking manager. That's who we need to bring in. I think we need to bring in attacking. I think we need to bring a possession based manager. What can control games and what can dictate games and stuff. It's interesting you mentioned about Kobe. Like, the thing is, like, I love Kobe in it, but for me, the way that we are trying to play this possession, the way that we're trying to play this high pressing football, I don't know if it suits Kobe that much. Like, the thing is, Kobe Mainoo's best attributes are on the ball, and for me, in the six, yes, he is good technically in the six, but there's obviously other factors as well. Like, obviously, you have to be like self-aware. You have to know your self around roundings in the midfield, and I just think defensively, Kobe Mainoo is vulnerable defensively. Like, the thing is, I think his best attribute is going forward. I think Kobe Mainoo is a 10. I think Kobe Mainoo's a 10. I don't think he's a 6. I think he's a 10. I think his best attributes is going forward. I think defensively he gets caught out. I'm not saying defensively that he's like slow, but he's not like rapid.
I understand where you're coming from. I do. Listen, I really appreciate the call. Really good points being raised, my friend. And we'll chat again soon. Top man.
Big up Terry. Thank you for having me.
All the best, mate. Not a problem whatsoever. Feel free, people, to phone in, have your say, give us your thoughts, give us your feelings in the comment section below as well. We want to hear from you. I don't necessarily agree that he's a 10. I have noticed in the last year or two the obsession over the number of a player, a 6, an 8, a 10. I understand you can have a 6 who can dictate play, like Zubimendi does it very well. Michael Carrick is one of the best in the world at it. But there are more than one way to skin a cat. You can have you can just have a destroyer and a Mainoo next to him, and it works. Someone who wins the ball back, protects the back line, picks the ball up and gives it to Mainoo, whose main approach to the game is to try and move that ball forward, as an example. Then you have a Bruno somewhere else on the football pitch or whatever it may be. You don't need a standalone 6 who's a dictator. It'd be great, but there are more than one way to skin a cat. I wouldn't necessarily categorize Mainoo as a 10. He's an 8. Or what I used to just call a central midfielder. You just call him a central midfielder. We call him 8s now. But there we go. Gravenberch is a revolutionary 6. He's doing very, very well at the minute in this adaptation of system. He's having a very, very good start to the season. Mainoo is definitely an 8, not a 10, because he's so good. He is asked to do more. He just plays him as a box-to-box midfielder. I like this dude. Get his opinion again. However, I'm going to be real. This is how Terry sounds. I don't know what you mean by that, my friend. Terry, please comment on Jadon Sancho's departure. What do you think? Bruv, I've done 3 or 4 shows on it. I got it. Look, I think the player wanted to leave the football club as much as I think the club wanted him to go. Sad how it ended. I wanted it to be a success. It wasn't. We move on. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. It was a massive, massive shame that it didn't pan out how we wanted. But that's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. It just didn't work out. We move on from there. Pogba played his best football when he played in a midfield three with license to go forward. I think the same would be good for Mainoo. No, I agree. And these are the things which I'll be looking at INEOS for. And something like, but INEOS don't pick the team, but they run the club. And if we see a player of Mainoo's ability not being played out of position per se, but not being utilized right, if Rashford ain't being utilized right, if we're doing it, and we all know as Man United fans and rivals, we have not utilized many of our players in their best positions over the years, or in the right role in their position for many years. And that's where you expect the people running the club to come down hard on the manager and say, what the hell is going on? You need to call it out. Joe is on the show with us now. What are you saying, Joe? Who do you support? Your mic is muted, my friend.
I'm an Arsenal fan. Happy to be back. Don't know if you remember me.
No, I do remember you. I do remember, especially now I've heard you talk. Yeah, what are you here to say, my friend?
Yeah, so I wasn't going to come on. Then my guy, the previous guy, came on and named Mainoo as a 10. And I agree with him. I think Mainoo is a 10. His best potential. If you're not a ball winner.
Back. You might cut for a minute. Bring that slightly. You said he's a 10 and it cut out. Start from that position again for us, please. Sorry.
All right. I think he's a 10. I agree. I agree with the guy who said Mainoo is a 10. You cannot be an 8 if you're not a ball winner. Mainoo's biggest strength is his creativity, the ability to arrive in the space between 3 and 4 or 2 and 5 and create from there. And the only position on the pitch where that is useful is 10. Might not be 10 right down the middle, but it could be like De Bruyne 10, where you're like, I think they call them interiors today, like an interior attacker. So he is right. The problem with United is you're playing a person who is better suited to 8 at 6. Casemiro is better suited to 8. He's better suited to only having to win the ball back. Do not depend on Casemiro to distribute. Now, there is the idea that you could very well play Casemiro at 6 and play Mainoo next to him to distribute. I'll ask you, Tel, are you comfortable with Mainoo playing most of the game behind your attack?
When you say behind the attack, what do you mean?
I mean, Mainoo being the closest guy to your defense when you have the ball.
No, I don't think he's bad in that position. I think as he gets older, he'll learn more. However, I like him in a more forward-thinking role. We saw when we beat Liverpool in the FA Cup last season, when he was slightly out to the left-hand side, he was up near Rashford. Some of the interplay and change, some of the dribbling from Mainoo, because Mainoo's a good dribbler. He isn't electric, but he's got great skill. I like him in a more, again, I view him as what I used to just call a central midfield player, where he will get involved in some of the defensive elements, and he's actually good at intercepting the ball. I think he's got the most in the Premier League this season. He's good at that element, but I also want to see him up the other end as well. So I wouldn't classify him as a 10, because in my head, I classify a 10 as somebody that is part of the attack, only really gets out involved defensively when it's sort of defending set pieces or if we're really under the cosh. So I just see him as an out-and-out central midfield player. I wouldn't categorize him as a DM or a central defensive midfielder or a holding midfield player. I also wouldn't categorize him as a attacking midfield player that's always up there. I think he has both attributes to his game. The biggest problem for Mainoo for me is he's tremendously talented. But I've spoken, you'll know, having watched the show as long as you have, you shouldn't be relying on 18, 19-year-olds anywhere at any team at any level ever. They shouldn't be, he should be a supplement to a team, not the best midfielder we've got. The fact that he probably is right now, especially on the ball, the best midfielder that we've got is ridiculous in the grand scheme of things. So I don't put the pressure on him like others. When Casemiro made those 2 mistakes, people were like, I can't believe it. You were more harsh on Casemiro than you were Mainoo. Yes, Casemiro is a multiple Champions League winning experienced midfield player. Mainoo is just going into his second season. He's going to make mistakes, right? And you've got to be more forgiving of mistakes from younger players than more experienced players. So I think there's elements in him, but I like Mainoo in the attack. And the problem is I don't think we get Mainoo near enough to our attacks regularly enough in games. That for me is a big problem with Man United, because when he is involved, he's dangerous, but half the time he's near our defenders, as you say. So no, overall, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think, number one, the solution to United's problem is to get a 6. We can dress it however we want, but at an elite team, a 6 is a controller. You do not play at an elite level with a destroyer 6. That is Stoke City football. You do not go to a game against Manchester City and the best your 6 can do is rough up De Bruyne. You do not do that, because De Bruyne will escape. And okay, you rough up De Bruyne and then you get the ball. And then what? And then what? And then now Mainoo has to come back deep to receive the ball. And then Bruno has to drop deep to receive the ball in your own half. And then Rashford has to come back inside. Those are all issues of not having a distributor at the base of midfield. And it's a very weird thing that I will admit I've come to learn recently, but I've come to learn it's very important. I have not watched an elite team at any time in history. The last time I was here, I was willing to admit that maybe I'd missed something. Then I gave myself the task of looking back. And there has not been an elite team in history that did not have a 6 as a distributor. People claim...
Sorry, go on. No, continue, sorry.
People claim Claude Makelele was a destroyer. You go back and watch Makelele. Makelele was a distributor.
See, I was just about to say to you, I was gonna say 2 players. There's 2 players who get categorized now as destroyers, but that's because the kids don't remember. Makelele and Roy Keane were both amazing on the ball. They were really good on the ball. They were very, very good on the ball. And people sort of forget that, because, especially with Roy Keane, they just think of him as this aggressive, hard tackling, combative midfield player. He was very, very good on the ball, and people forget this. You've got Paul Scholes. He was a striker when he came through, or a kind of secondary striker.
Paul Scholes, you've got
he went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. No, I agree. And the ball, which is why, for me, until we have that 6, which we don't have, it's fine to have someone who breaks up the play. But this is why I think what we need is a kind of double pivot, but where you're complementing each other. So, for instance, Ugarte and Mainoo, it's a case of Ugarte wins the ball back. And this is real basic terms. It won't work like this on the football pitch because it's more complicated. But Ugarte wins the ball back, gives it to Mainoo, who then distributes it. And then what we have to do is find someone that can come in and play that role as winner of the ball and distributor, which then means you can lead to Mainoo the following season moving further forward. We're never going to fix that right now. I think it's the problem we have at Man United is we never seem to get the balance right. The closest we got was the first 6 months under Ten Hag, where Casemiro and Eriksen played together. Casemiro, what we loved about him, he was just winning the ball back, and then he was getting the ball to Eriksen, and Eriksen was spraying it about nicely. The problem is with Eriksen, he's just aged out. And look, he's got real health issues. We understand why. That's the best and closest we've got to it. And we understood that what he really wanted was that to be Casemiro and Frankie de Jong. And that's where it can work. So that's where, like, although I'm happy with a lot of our transfer business this summer, that's still where a massive hole in our midfield is. And what's important, and this is where I look at INEOS, we still need, and I know that next season we might fill that position, but we need the head coach to fix that problem with how he sets up for the next year. The problem he's got, it's almost like he wants to play like that without the positions. The problem is you're going to fail as a team. So I totally get where you're coming from, mate. I think it's a really, really good point. Do you think Man United should remove Ten Hag, or do you think it should stay longer?
I personally believe he should stay longer, because I feel like you remove him from that position and you're in a new rebuild for another 3 years. As a rival fan, I would rather you removed him. I would rather you went back into another 3 years of rebuild. But for a regular football fan, I feel like the phase that United is in right now is 2000, is Arteta's first year. I don't remember the actual year, but Arteta's first year, where it's a cleanup phase. It's taken longer than it should have taken. The cleanup phase has taken longer than it should have taken, but you're in that phase. And the next manager, whoever you bring, will start from the cleanup phase, because they'll have to clean up what Ten Hag messed up. So I feel like give him one more year, let him stabilize the ship, then maybe you can let him go.
Fair dues. Listen, Joe, always a pleasure to speak, mate. I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Top man, thank you for coming on. Top man, brother. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Michael's on the show with me now. What are you saying, Michael?
Oh, hello. Football Terrace is my first appearance, so definitely the previous callers have a lot of good points about the Manchester United's midfield. Is the quality good, by the way?
Yeah, perfect, mate. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So from what I've seen the first 3 games, I don't think midfield is particularly the issue. I think that mostly our left back has been very exposed, especially that we have a Dalot who is mainly right back, and while he was playing on the left back, I've seen Brighton and Liverpool both particularly director attacks towards that and overload Dalot. So he had to pick a man he wanted to man mark, and it left out a lot of space. And that's where we lost the last goal against Brighton. That's where the Trent scored the first goal, which it was offside, but it had a lot of mental advantage for Liverpool because they proved themselves that they can score at Old Trafford, and from there it was just easy picking. So for me, the biggest issue is not the midfield, because now we have Ugarte, we have Mainoo, we have Collier. These guys will settle in nicely and work with each other. I think having Luke Shaw and the other guy who went missing 1 year ago, these players are just I don't know, are they even at the club? Are they coming in weekly, rehabilitating, or are they just...
I read somewhere today, and I haven't gone into detail, that Luke Shaw may have now picked up another injury. So there's going to be a big delay on him coming back. So yeah, no, I hear you. That left back area is certainly a problem. I would like to see us put Delo back on the right and put Maswari out on the left hand side. I just think Maswari, it can use both feet, where Delo, again, he's not one-footed completely, but just put him back to where he was very, very good last year. It makes more sense. I agree with that.
One more thing I wanted to add is when you look at midfield, it's no longer 3 players or 4 players like we had 4-4-2, then we went to 4-3-3. Right now we involve fullbacks, we involve the wingers. Sometimes the striker drops in, for Bayern with Harry Kane, to create 4 or 5 men overloads on certain areas to win them. And from what I've seen right now is, yes, maybe Slot outplayed Ten Hag tactically, but at the same time we have a newer team, we have new players that they don't have the details yet to win those areas and to have that one step extra to win the ball. And showed clearly that maybe Ten Hag is the right man, maybe he isn't. That depends if he keeps falling out with new players, because this is very expensive. Every time he falls out with somebody, it costs us big. He fell out with Varane, he fell out with Ronaldo, Sancho. I think he fell out with Martial too. With Rashford currently, because Rashford went partying in Ibiza last year. There was a long list of players he's currently not working out together, right? And might be sometimes just cheaper to drop the guy, That's just my opinion.
No, listen, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And the only thing I disagree with Joe, the previous caller, about is that I don't look at we are in the first year of our rebuild. The difference between Arteta and Ten Hag is that when Arsenal started their club rebuild, it was at exactly the same time that Arteta came in. Ten Hag's already here, and my biggest issue with keeping him is that there's already been broken relationships and problems within that dressing room, and it's hard to fix those things. Sometimes it's better to have a clean break, a fresh start, and move on from there. Michael, great call, my friend. Make sure you phone into the show again. We'll chat again soon. Top man, Michael. Much. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Ruben's on with us now. What are you saying, Ruben? How are you, mate?
Hello, mate. I'm basically just wondering why you think INEOS are serious. I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm looking at your club. I think it's a mess. To be honest with you, I don't think INEOS. They haven't shown they're serious. I'm wondering why you think they're serious.
So what makes you think they're not serious? First of all, great question. By the
I
way,
think if they were serious, they probably would have brought their own man in. I mean, Ten Hag is shocking, man. He should have been sacked a year ago. Do you know what I mean?
So that element, I agree with you that I would have removed him. What I will say is this: is when you look at new ownership takeovers at the top clubs in the Premier League over the last 20 years, all of them have kept the manager they've inherited for anywhere between 6 months to a year. So it isn't. So what I won't do as a United fan is say what INEOS have done is completely abnormal and wrong, when actually it's quite typical to stick with the original manager. Although I don't agree it was the right thing to do. So objectivity with subjectivity there. What makes me think they're serious is the people that they've employed to run the club. They have gone out and hired very credible individuals, from Wilcott to Barada to Dan Ashworth. So that fills me with an element of confidence. Plus, if I'm being honest with you, I'm putting faith in them. So I'm basing a lot of my faith is on what. Well, of course, I'm hoping, but it's more to do with what they've said. It marries up very much with what I've been talking about for 11 years in terms of having a club strategy rather than a managerial strategy. Managers are a thing of the past. You need head coaches. You need, almost when it comes to the head coach, a plug and play system. And they have said these things one way, shape or form. And I just think, well, they understand how the setup should be. Of course, I'm judging them so far on what they've said, the appointments of the board, a decent summer of signings. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be skeptical. And it doesn't mean that if they fail, I'm not going to criticize them. So far, I've really liked what they've done. However, these are moments where we also judge. So if we go
the
next
Xerxes signing for me is shocking. Like, I don't understand why you didn't just go for Tony. If you're serious, you go for Tony, surely.
But you say that, but no one went for Tony. So all clubs not serious.
Yeah, well,
no one went for him.
I don't know, man. If you're spending that, what did you spend on Xerxes? It was
32 million.
Yeah, you could have got.
So I hear your point, but let me. I get your point, but let me broaden your point away from Man United. Why did no one in the Premier League go for him?
I think a lot of other clubs have a decent. I mean, I don't think Arsenal signed it because I think Arteta likes Havertz as his number 9. I don't think he wanted to drop Havertz. That's the reason. Chelsea, they've invested a lot in Jackson. I think a lot of other strikers clubs have strikers. Man United, you're relying on these guys that are. I don't know, man. Xerxes not. If you're going to spend 32, 35 million, whatever it was, on Xerxes, bring Tony in. So
what I would say is this: I get the challenge because I like Tony. I'm surprised nobody went in for him. Again, what I'm not going to do is say Man United's new owners are not serious because we didn't sign Ivan Toney when nobody in Europe wanted Ivan Toney. I think I need to broaden myself a little bit more. So again, I'm not stating that every decision they've made is right. I'm not stating everything they've done thus far is 100% perfect, because as you know, as a Gooner, the way Edu and Josh Kroenke coming in and then appointing the head coach of Arteta, you have definitely grown. But in that last 3 or 4 period where you've grown, let's not pretend that you haven't made mistakes as well in terms of signings. And this is why I would say to people, I am not giving an overarching assessment and conclusion to INEOS's rebuild yet. I'm just stating that I like a lot of what they've done. I also don't think people are going to invest billions. And the only way they're going to make a return on that is to make Man United a better team. I think they have to be serious. It's very different when you buy it the way the Blazers did. They bought it for nothing with loans. They were always going to make a profit, win, lose, or draw. Even if INEOS are only doing this to sell it for billions in the future, you're only going to get that if Man United becomes successful again. So I think you have to take it seriously. But, mate, really appreciate the challenge on that. And, make sure you phone in again soon. Really good points, my friend. Top man. Thank you, Ruben. Look, I want to thank everyone who has tuned into the show today. And you are right, people. There is a little bit of hope here. I do hope that INEOS get it right. Why would I not? But what I would say so far is, just like with Ruben there, really good guy, really good challenge. Yes, you could say, I don't think Xerxes is the right guy. You should have gone for Ivan Toney. Nobody went for Ivan Toney. Why don't we go and get a controller in the 6th position? I also agree with that challenge. Let's see what happens, though, over the coming years. 3 to 4 years to fix us. We're never going to get it all done in one summer. Everyone who's tuned in, I want to say a big thank you to each and every single one of you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button before you leave. We're back today at around 4:30 with Mo and Hussam for Straight Facts. Very excited about that one today. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.